Speaking of reliability, a podcast with good friends talking with you about reliability engineering topics. Welcome to Speaking of Reliability. This is Fred Schenkelberg.
And this is Dianna Dini.
Hey, Dianna, I think it was on LinkedIn that you got an award. Was that for a presentation at a conference recently?
Oh, yes. Yes, it was. That's nice that you noticed. It was for IEEE Women in Engineering, the Northeast section. And Stanford, I did a presentation on cross-functional teamwork and a couple of things that people could do, actionable things they could do to do it a little bit better, how to approach their team.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, they presented an award to me after I was done, and I thought that was really nice.
Oh,
It was a
it's
good
right on the
experience.
spot with the audience you just presented to right there?
Yeah, I'm posing with the camera in front of the audience I just presented to. And
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good
Yeah,
job.
that was nice. Thanks.
Yeah. No, it was a question I received just a day ago, 2 days ago. We went back and forth a couple of times with this email, but it was, what do you know about this conference? And I know quite a bit. Well, is it worth going to? And I thought, And so going and getting an award and being able, it's publicity, it's part of your Google resume, as I call it. You got recognition from your peers, you've got an audience you got to talk to, and hopefully they took away a bunch of good stuff, given the quality of the presentation, that kind of stuff.
Thanks. And I got feedback from the audience too, to help make things better for next time. So that it was a two-way kind of thing.
Yeah. But it's a value to you, it's a value to the audience and stuff like that. So the question kind of put me back a little bit is it worth going to? And I was like, well, I've seen plenty of people that go to the conference and open their laptop and check email for the whole presentation and kind of like, oh, that's done.
I always thought that was weird.
It's like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Or they,
it's kind of like going to a cafe for the day to work instead of being in your office, except now you're in a conference.
Yeah, it's background. And sometimes there's free coffee at the conferences and stuff like that. I remember one conference I went to was at Disney World. And at and I was part of the management team for that conference. I did not pick the venue because I suspected, and it was later confirmed, that a good number of people go to the conference and don't plan on attending the conference. They're just going to Disneyland, Disney World, or whatever, Epcot.
Oh, see, I would treat it as a yes and. You go to the conference and you go to Disney. Yeah.
And you can go to in the evening or whatever. But at one point it was right after lunch. And it was a habit of the committee to go around and do a quick head count, how many people are in each session. And it was kind of the sessions that had a good attendance were the types of speakers they tended to invite back and, invite to tutorials and stuff like that. So it was collecting data. And I think they had 600, I don't remember the exact numbers. Let's say it was 600 total registered attendees that showed up, right? And there were less than 300 people in the conference rooms.
Oh.
So it was like, okay. Same when they went to any of like Vegas or Reno. It was people were not in the conference. They were and my boss, I remember years and years ago, I'd heard about there's a reliability type quality conference that's in Hawaii every year. And he says, over my dead body, I'm paying for your trip to Hawaii.
Because he knew.
Yeah, because he'd been there and into those kinds of conferences. But my initial thought was, if you go because they're advertising a resort or a playground or a beach or whatever, are you going for the conference or are you going for the sun in January or whenever this conference is? Or do you have a plan of what do you want to learn, what sessions you want to go to, which speakers do you want to go talk to and learn something from, just showing up and sitting in a handful of presentations is you might pick something up. But that's not where I think you get the most value out of a conference. I don't know.
No, you really gotta like plan ahead. I've learned that, hey, I registered for this conference. I'm just gonna go and figure it out when I get there.
Mm-hmm.
Has not been as excuse me, as successful compared to me planning it out, like looking ahead of time, like what are the tracks that I want to go to, um, and who are some of the people that I may want to meet or meet up with.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays they have sometimes a portal or that you can sign up with. You can download an app on your phone and you can see the other attendees who are going to be there
Mm-hmm.
and the presenters and stuff like that. So you can kind of pre-connect with some people there if you want to. So they're adding that capability, which
Oh, that's
can be
nice.
nice if you use it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a way to, I mean, you get breaks and lunches and dinners and stuff like that. And I've, in my latter years of going to conferences, those were always booked. People would, you know, say, hey, do you have time to sit down and meet and stuff like that? And yeah, sure. Let's have lunch on Tuesday and, meet and go do that. And I found those conversations the best because you had time, it was relaxed, and you weren't rushing between, two papers being set up or whatever. Um, and that, but the plan part is why are you going to the conference? What do you want to learn? And if it's like, say, block diagrams, for example, are there papers on block diagrams? Not from an academic that's doing the curly edge blocks for this particular reason, kind of thing, which you might never use. But are there tutorials that cover that topic? Are there people in that particular topic you're interested in that are, must see people or must go, go talk to? And I look at it as the conference doesn't start or end on Monday and run to Friday. It's or whatever its duration is. It's 2-3 weeks prior is sort out exactly what you want to do and who you want to talk to and what you want to get out of it, and have a plan B. I don't know about you, Diana, but I've been in a couple of presentations going, I had high hopes for it. I had a great title and abstract, and it was the worst presentation I ever saw. It was like nails on a chalkboard for those that remember what chalkboards are.
Oh,
And I was like, all right, plan B. I'm going across the hall to this other presentation. It's like, it is okay to get, especially if it's multi-track. You can get up and go. If it's not useful for you, there's probably something else that's better. And so have a plan. Where would you go next?
I never approached it that way. I just always kind of stuck it out. So you're kind of giving me permission to sneak
Oh,
sneak out and go somewhere else.
well, the other, in it, it's no guarantee that the other presentation is better or not, but it can't get worse than one that just is grating and just, yeah. Maybe it's just me. I have a low tolerance for really bad presentation. So I'll just
Mm.
leave. Uh, if there's an option, if you know where to go.
The other thing I've learned is when I would go, I would try to pack in as much as I could to get as much
Mm-hmm.
value out of the conference as I possibly could, like squeeze squeeze out every minute.
Uh-huh.
And it ended up being exhausting. So then, by the end of the day of one conference with things I was really interested in attending, my energy I was zapped. So
Yeah.
I would show up, but I wouldn't really show up. I was just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
So I have learned that I don't have to do everything all the time. Like if there's a couple in the morning that I'm interested in, I can do that. And then maybe I could take a break, like go out into the hallway or the meet and greet area and just grab a
Mm-hmm.
cup of coffee or something like that. Like I don't have to be on all the time if I don't want to.
Yeah. And I find that it's those hallway conversations oftentimes that lead to long-time friendships and connections if both parties are interested in the networking aspect of it. Way back when I met somebody that was from IBM and in a reliability role, and we chatted a bit and exchanged business cards, and very deliberately stayed in touch. And so that it was one of those connections that I could say, Sarah, I just ran into this issue, this issue. Have you seen anything like this? And she would write back, yeah, but we're not supposed to tell anybody. Here's what
Yeah.
we're doing about it. Oh, okay, here's what we're doing about it. Sounds like we're on the right track. Thanks. And she would, it was kind of this reliability quality folks got to stick together. We're all dealing with the same set of vendors. We're all dealing with the same types of customers and stuff like that. And it's somebody to commiserate with, if nothing else, from other industries. And uh, one of the things
Yeah.
that's, one is the planning part and meet people. And I like the idea of, take a break, but I use that for the informal serendipitous. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I think so.
That, you start a conversation with somebody at the coffee stand, kind of thing. And I remember going in one conference we were at had pretty limited options for meals, and they weren't providing the meals like for lunch and dinner. And the hotel or the complex had a few restaurants, but when we would break for lunch, they were a swamp. And so I was scheduled to meet with somebody, and we're standing in line, and there's two people behind us that were not talking to each other per se. They look like two singles in the table. And I was like, let's get a table for four. And would you guys join us? And we'll fill out a table rather than the four of us taking up three tables. And they're like, yeah, that'd be great. And we had a great conversation.
Yeah, that's good.
And it was convenient to get you could get a table for four pretty quick because the single tables of tables for two and kinds of stuff like that were already full. A lot of people were jumping on those. So when we said a table for four, they're like, oh, follow me. Everybody else was trying to give us priority because it filled the table. But it was a conversation about how you got started in reliability and how do you help the culture of your organization. And then it went on to all kinds of cool topics that these two folks had. And they asked us, a bunch of pretty brilliant questions. I did enjoy that conversation and followed up with them, stayed in touch with them. And so it was, and I think that's the third part is don't be shy to ask questions, and where did that come from? Where did the idea come from? How did it turn out? All those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And then follow up with people. If you make a connection, you come home and your briefcase is, got 25 business cards on it, or you have 25 names and email addresses. Say, hey, I enjoyed the conversation. I hope, your travels were safe. What did you take away from the conference? I'm curious because you saw different things than I did, or something like that to foster an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, the other thing with that is if you're going and you're trying to meet people, sometimes the people like you might introduce yourself and start talking with, and you just may not hit it off because we're all different kind of people, and then just instead of keeping trying to work it out, you're allowed to, politely say goodbye and then release both of you so that you can each find your people
Yeah.
and the people that you connect with and can network with. And that's okay too, to
Oh yeah.
recognize that not everybody is your cup of tea and vice versa. And
Yep. Yep.
but there are lots of people at the conference. So just move on and try new opportunities and try a different conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. And it's something I've had to learn. I was the kind of person at a cocktail party or at a social at a conference to find the one person I already knew, and we'd sit in a corner and talk the whole time. And it was like, no, I'm actually going to try to meet other people, and that turned the corner of what I didn't like is the 2 minute, nice to meet you, where you're from, what kind of stuff you do. Okay, that's nice. And then go meet. It's not a race to meet everybody.
Oh, right. Yeah. There's a there's a balance there. Yes. A good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree. There's some people like, I had one person and he looked at me like I was a spy from the from somewhere, and I was trying to pry into their business details and everything else, and says, "Hi, where do you work?" That's about all I did, and is really guarded, really suspicious, and everything. I'm like, nah, okay, move on.
Yeah,
There was
right.
that kind of stuff. Um, the other part to help, especially if your boss is the one, funding the trip, is I attended this paper, I had these three takeaways and stuff like that. That's, you know, have AI do that for you. It's like, it's nobody's going to read it. Nobody cares. They weren't there. And just because you attended something and you have three takeaway points, they're out of context. Is bring back three or four ideas that you can implement, that you can propose. Let's say, I learned this at the conference. If we do this, this, and this a little bit differently, it may save us X amount of dollars. And
Oh,
then
that's another good idea for
and then
you.
go do it,
Yeah.
and keep track of what, like 6 weeks later or so, is look back on what did you implement out of that conference and what difference did it make? Because it's like reading a book and then putting it down and forgetting it ever existed and never do anything about it. Is, well, you might have enjoyed the reading process, but if it was a book about Bible analysis and you didn't learn anything and implement anything, it was a wasted time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the idea came from when we were doing a conference inside HP, and the group I was in was hosting it. And my boss at that time said, "Well, how do you know the conference is worth it? We're putting up $50,000, and all these people are taking time off and traveling, and so the distributed cost around the company is, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So how is the conference actually worth more than that?" He says, "Well, we do the survey afterwards, and they complained about the seats and the lights, and the food was good, but the banquet was okay." And no, it's not. He's like, "What's the value? What difference did it make?" And so we hatched the scheme to telling attendees that on the exit, when they're leaving the conference, here's a form for you to fill out on the last day of the conference of what did you take away? What are the big highlights or things that you've picked up? And what are you going to do different when you get back to work? And we're going to call you, and I don't know, there was probably 150 people at the gathering. We're going to call in 4 to 6 weeks to see how well it worked. What did you implement? What did you do?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things going on there. For one, making them stop to think about what it is they learn and what they're going to implement.
Mm-hmm.
And then writing it out. There's something about actually just writing it out into a sentence.
Yep.
And
It
then
is.
you provided a little bit of accountability because you said we're going to call you later.
Yep.
So how I'm suspecting this worked out really well. How did it go?
Well, there was three groups of people that we talked to, and at least the ones I talked to, and it seemed consistent with the other folks on the team making calls. There was the part of the group said, "Well, I got back to work and I got into the whirlwind of the day to day and completely forgot about it, and I haven't done anything." And
Mhm.
so we just encouraged them to take a look at it again and look for that opportunity to implement. And we hope some of them did. Another group said, "Well, I tried it and it's going to take us, a year to figure out if that worked or not. It seemed to be well received. It was like a different facilitation step, or it was, a tool for analysis. And it was really hard for somebody to go, well, I don't know how much difference it made. It's hard to tell." And it was the softer part of, here's a different way to do a graphic. And did that influence people with cleaner information or better information, or do something else? Or did it influence the decision? Maybe they were going to make that decision anyway, that way. Um, so in there, we learned a lot about, well, how do you quantify the difference and what value it had? And so it was kind of a back and forth with them. It was a learning process for all of us in that regard. And there
Mm.
were probably 10% of the people we contacted. So 10, 15 people. It's like, Oh, I've been in touch with this guy I met. He did a paper on the exact problem that we're having, and he flew out here and helped us solve it. And it saved us like $3 million immediately. It was we don't have to do a recall. We don't have to do this. We changed our yield went from 50% to 95% because of the changes this guy had in his paper. And so we had like 10 of those. And it was in the tens of millions of dollars of quantified, verified value created by the
Oh, wow.
conference. And, imagine if all 150 people, did it. It'd have been phenomenal. But it's one of those things that if you go to the conference and you're absorbing information, and there's not a test at the end, right? That's great. That's nice. You're aware of all these things, and that's part of education. But unless you actually do something different about it, or solve a problem a different way, or present a graphic a different way, or do an analysis more efficiently, or whatever, what value does it really add? And so the conference is not the value in and of itself. Just going to it is not it's just the start of a possibility to create value. It's not
Right.
a value in and itself.
Yes. And when I do give speeches, at the end, I have a feedback form.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a quality person, and
Yeah.
I want information for continuous improvement and whatever. But part of it is, what's one thing that you learned today that you think you're going to implement? And I want people to write it out on the feedback form. Now, there are times when instead of a feedback form, I would put a QR code that people could scan and do something in their phone. Like hardly one person did it out of three to six different talks that I've done with the QR code. Yeah. But the paper feedback was different. So I would suggest that if you attend a session, at the end of the session, kind of do your own, like open up your notebook. If you have a physical one, I carry around a little physical one. And then just jot down a note. I take notes sometimes throughout the presentation, but just to kind of wrap it up in the moment, what's one key takeaway that I can implement when I get back?
Yep.
And then you would have that record that you can refer to for yourself to kickstart some of those ideas that you picked up at the conference.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, it's a little bit of planning, pay attention, don't burn yourself out, talk to other people, take notes, and follow up. Go actually create the value. There's all pieces and parts to this. So we're recording this kind of the end of the year. It should come out right about the first week of January, I believe, if I remember our calendar right. So it's about the time when people are kind of looking at what's ahead, what's the budget, at least some companies, depending on your fiscal year, I guess. But professional development comes to mind. So that's why I wanted to chat about this one. And it was prompted by a question we received. So it was timely. So good stuff, Dianna. I appreciate you chatting through this with me. If you're listening to this and have a question about it, or how do I get more out of a conference, those kinds of things, or if you have some hints or tips that we could share with everybody else, let us know. Head over to ascendoverliability.com/go/SOR. You can find a couple of ways to get in touch with us. No QR codes. There is a button you can record a message to us, but no QR codes. And you can also send us a message through LinkedIn. Dianna and I and the other hosts are all available through LinkedIn and our About pages. So we do really look forward to hearing from you in the spirit of continuous improvement, of course, right?
That's right. Yes.
All right. Thanks so much, Dianna. We'll talk again soon.
Okay. Thanks, Fred. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Speaking of Reliability. We invite you to join the conversation. If you have a question or a topic that you think we should discuss in a future show, please let us know. You can find a comment box below the episode show notes, or just leave a note as part of a review on iTunes.